Tonight, we're diving into 4 urban legends that became real, and one of them will have you sleeping with the lights on. So, turn off the lights, and let's see if you make it to the end. If you could rewind time to Staten Island in the 1970s, you wouldn't have to listen long before you heard one name whispered like a warning: Cropsey. At first, it sounded like a classic neighborhood scare story, something parents told their kids so they wouldn't wander too far into the woods or explore abandoned places. The legend described a terrifying figure hiding in the island's empty lots and tree lines. A scarred man, a lurking stranger, someone who took children who didn't come home. The story spread because Staten Island had the perfect setting for it. Large patches of woodland, half-forgotten buildings, quiet streets, where it was easy for imagination to fill the gaps. But then, over time, something happened that changed everything. Kids in the area started disappearing for real, and once that began, the line between just a legend and something happening in the real world felt a lot thinner. People started wondering whether the story had been a warning all along, or whether the legend was simply the only way the community knew how to talk about fear. That's where the name Andre Rand enters the story. Rand was born in 1944 and later moved to Staten Island. According to public reports from that era, he had a troubling history with the law, and at one point had worked at Willowbrook State School, a facility that later became widely known for serious controversy and investigations. After he was released from custody for an earlier offense, the neighborhood began hearing more and more reports of children vanishing, sometimes in ordinary moments, a child playing near home, then suddenly gone. Families would search, neighbors would look, and there would be nothing. For years, Rand was often discussed as a person of interest in multiple cases. People claimed they'd seen him around kids, talking to them, walking with them, sometimes inserting himself into spaces where he didn't belong. But for a long time, there was never enough to remove the fear completely by locking the situation down in a way that made the community feel safe. Then, in the late 1980s, investigators finally got the kind of evidence that changes everything. Evidence connecting Rand to a specific child's disappearance. That led to a major conviction and a long prison sentence. Later on, more information surfaced that tied him to other cases, and he was charged again years later, adding even more time. And that's the part that keeps Cropsey from feeling like a harmless campfire tale, because the legend was about a monster hiding in the dark. But the reality people lived with was worse in a quieter way. The sense that danger wasn't a supernatural creature at all, but a real person blending into the background, close enough to be seen, close enough to be remembered, and still able to make a community feel powerless for years. Even now, the name Cropsey doesn't just mean a spooky story on Staten Island. It means that sometimes a legend doesn't appear out of nowhere. Sometimes it grows because people sense something is wrong, long before they can prove it. This next one sounds almost ridiculous at first, until you imagine being alone on a dark road and realizing you're not the only one out there. In the early 1970s, people around Northern Virginia and the D.C. area started reporting a strange figure, someone seen near wooded neighborhoods and secluded roads, sometimes described as wearing light clothing and something on their head that looked like rabbit ears. Over time, the story mutated the way these stories always do. The figure became the Bunny Man, a local boogeyman who appeared in quiet places, threatened people, and vanished before anyone could get a clear look. But the reason the legend stuck is because there was a real incident beneath the myth. In 1970, a couple parked near Colchester Road in Fairfax County reported that a man approached them, yelled that they were trespassing, and threw a sharp object at their car. They were frightened enough to leave immediately, and later told police the man wore light-colored clothing and might have had something white on his head. They didn't call him a bunny. But once the story hit the news, the details started shifting in the public imagination, because a man in light clothes is unsettling, but a man with bunny ears is unforgettable. From there, the legend expanded. The sightings became more dramatic. The figure became more aggressive in retellings, and eventually, the railroad overpass near Fairfax Station gained a new nickname, Bunny Man Bridge. Then came the origin story that urban legends love to invent. Tales of an old asylum, a transport gone wrong, an escape into the woods, and a lone missing patient who survived in the forest. In some versions, people claimed animals were found in disturbing conditions, implying the fugitive was living off them. In others, the story escalated into full horror myth territory, especially around Halloween. Most of that is folklore. But folklore can still be dangerous because it changes how people feel in a place. Today, Bunny Man Bridge is famous not because everyone believes a costumed figure is waiting there, but because the location itself carries tension. A narrow road, trees pressing close, a dark overpass, the kind of place where your footsteps sound too loud and every car in the distance feels too far away. And the scariest interpretation isn't even supernatural. It's the thought that a real person could use the legend as camouflage, knowing that if you ever told someone what you saw, they might laugh, until it's too late. Some stories feel loud, sirens, headlines, chaos. This one feels quiet, almost gentle, and that's what makes it unsettling. In the early 2000s, hikers in a forested area near Mals, in the canton of Fribourg, Switzerland, began reporting encounters with a strange human-like figure. The description barely changed across accounts. Tall, around 6 feet, wearing a vintage-looking gas mask that covered the entire face, a work-style suit, a cloak. Most people didn't claim the figure attacked or chased them. The encounters were often described as silent, brief. The figure would be seen walking among the trees like it belonged there, and then it would be gone. For years, it stayed local, more of an oral legend than a confirmed phenomenon. People told friends, parents warned kids. The story gathered theories the way fog gathers around a valley. A troubled soldier's spirit, an outsider, something not quite human. Then in 2013, the story exploded into wider attention when a Swiss newspaper published a photograph said to show the figure. After that, people began traveling to the area hoping to glimpse it for themselves. The last widely discussed sighting reportedly happened in June 2013, when a local woman said she saw the figure holding flowers during a walk. And then, the figure vanished. Later, clothing was reportedly found in the woods, along with a carved wooden note, something like a certificate or farewell, claiming that the media had turned a harmless being into a circus attraction, forcing it to stop its daily walks, which the note described as a kind of happiness therapy. No one ever confirmed what truly happened. No one ever saw the face behind the mask. And that's why this story lingers, because the fear isn't just, what was it? The fear is that it might have been someone real, someone who only felt safe when hidden, someone who walked the forest to cope with something, someone who didn't want the world to look at them, until the world finally did. And once the attention arrived, the forest went quiet again. West Hobart is a suburb in Tasmania, Australia, an older place with older buildings, the kind of setting where ghost stories almost write themselves. Over the years, there have been plenty of claims of strange lights, eerie silhouettes, and unexplained events, most of them with little proof, like so many paranormal stories. But one case stood out. In the late 1980s, And into the 1990s, rumors spread about a particular house in West Hobart. People said it was so haunted that it was driving the residents out of their minds. Neighbors whispered. Locals avoided the area. The story grew the way they always do, bigger, darker, more certain with every retelling. Eventually, authorities got involved, and the real explanation surfaced. And it wasn't paranormal. It was environmental. A plant known as datura had been growing above the home. Over time, leaves fell into the property's rainwater collection tank. And without realizing it, the family had been consuming tiny amounts of contamination day after day. Datura is infamous for producing intense, distressing delirium. Not the kind of experience people imagine when they think of hallucinations, but something more disorienting: confusion, paranoia, frightening perceptions, a sense that reality itself is slipping sideways. In higher amounts, it can be physically dangerous. So what looked like a haunting, fear, strange behavior, panic, seeing or hearing things that weren't there, had a real cause hiding in plain sight: the water. And that might be the most disturbing ending of all, because it means the house didn't need spirits to become terrifying. It only needed something natural, silent and invisible, slowly changing how the people inside experience the world. Sometimes the scariest stories aren't the ones where the supernatural is proven. They're the ones where it isn't needed.